In the heart of Columbia, South Carolina, amidst the energy of a bustling college town, the life of a young student named Samantha Lee Josephson took a dark and tragic turn. Her story is one that gripped a nation and shed light on the potential dangers that lurk in the most routine aspects of our lives. Samantha, a vivacious and ambitious young woman, was a beacon of light on the University of South Carolina campus. Little did anyone suspect that a routine night out would lead to a series of events that would shatter the lives of those who knew her. Samantha Lee Josephson was born to her parents Seymour and Marcy Josephson in Princeton, New Jersey, and grew up in Robbinsville, New Jersey as a child. She attended the University of South Carolina, where she majored in political science. Samantha, who was a senior in college at the time of her demise, planned on graduating in 2019 and attending Drexel University School of Law, where she wanted to study to become a lawyer specializing in international law. Samantha earned a full scholarship to Drexel University, as well as a partial scholarship to Rutgers, and aspired to practice international law. Samantha was a member of the Alpha Gamma Delta sorority, studied abroad in Barcelona, and visited Madrid and Paris during her time in South Carolina. Samantha was amazingly beautiful and had a wonderful smile. Samantha had a boyfriend named Greg, and the couple was very close to each other. They kept in touch with each other every day, constantly texting and calling each other whenever it was possible. They had plans to start a future together. Even when Samantha was going to be attending law school, Greg was going to move in with her and support her. Everything seemed going well till Friday, March 29, 2019, when she never returned to her apartment, and things took a turn for the worse for Samantha. On the evening of March 28, 2019, Samantha planned to go out with her roommate and some friends in Columbia, South Carolina. Her boyfriend Greg was supposed to join them also, but he was back in his hometown at the time. Still, he told her to go out and have fun without him. Samantha was feeling gloomy after hearing of a family member's ailment. What she just needed was to distract herself a bit, and going out with some friends was the perfect opportunity to raise her spirits. The group met up and went to a few different bars before finally settling at a bar known as the Bird Dog Bar, which was located in an area known as 5 Points, a hotspot for students to hang out at bars. Even though Samantha was having a fun time out with her friends, she continuously texted her boyfriend Greg, beseeching him to make a 2-hour drive to visit her in Columbia because she needed emotional support. The couple had already made plans to see each other the following weekend, so her boyfriend never changed his mind and decided to stay where he was at, but still, he kept in constant communication with her. At around 2 a.m., Samantha decided to head back to her apartment by herself, and she called an Uber, a popular rideshare service, using an app on her phone. As that was a common practice among her and her peers on that occasion, fate would deliver her into the hands of a murderer. While Samantha was waiting for the Uber, she had one last chat on the phone with Greg at around 2:04 a.m. Samantha told him she was headed home and took an Uber on the way. That was the routine Samantha had done many times before, using an Uber to get to and from the bars because it was way too far for a walk. A few minutes after placing the request with an Uber, a car pulled up to the curb where Samantha and a group of other weary bar customers were waiting for lifts. Security cameras captured her approaching the car, only to realize that the driver was there for someone else. After doing an about-face, she is seen retreating to her spot on the sidewalk. Samantha was wearing an orange shirt and black pants. After some time, a black Chevrolet Impala driven by a man who was later identified as Nathaniel David Rowland pulled up into the space in front of her. Samantha said goodbye to Greg, and assuming that was her lift, she opened the door and exchanged a quick word with the person behind the wheel before climbing into the back seat. Once she was inside, the car sped off away. Within a matter of moments, the Uber that Samantha ordered arrived at the designated pickup location. After searching in vain for their customer, the driver canceled the request and left. From that point in time, nobody other than the 21-year-old political science major student and the man driving the Impala knew that she had gotten into the wrong car. The CCTV footage would later show that the black Chevrolet Impala circled the area numerous times before targeting Samantha. Anybody who has ever spent time in 5 Points was aware that college kids gathered in the streets after the bars closed to wait for their rides, and watching him drive around the area gave rise to the conclusion that he knew exactly what he was doing that night. Amazing boyfriend Greg he tracked Samantha via the Find My Friends app on her phone to make sure that she got home safe that night. While he watched Samantha's movement on the map via the app, he realized that she was traveling in the opposite direction of where her apartment was located, although at first didn't think much of it, as it could be she was going to a friend's house. Greg later texted her to check to see if she was okay. Unfortunately, he never got any feedback. He then tried calling her, but she never answered her phone. Greg never gave up and tried texting her several more times until he noticed that messages he sent her showed up as delivered but not read, meaning Samantha never read any of Greg's text messages. Her phone location later on stopped sharing, which made Greg shocked, as it had never happened before. Greg later thought that Samantha misplaced her phone in the Uber, but still, he decided to call her friends and her roommate to find out if they heard from her or if she had made it to her home. Unfortunately, nobody heard from her or saw her. Greg hoped she would turn up in the morning and so tried to get some sleep. The following day in the morning, Samantha was nowhere to be found. Her roommates were concerned about her whereabouts and reported her missing. Her boyfriend Greg also made a 2-hour drive down to Columbia to assist in searching for her. A little over 3 to 4 hours after the missing person report was filed, the dead body of a young woman who was later confirmed to be Samantha Josephson was found by a group of turkey hunters in a woodland area in New Zion, about 65 miles away from Five Points, in less than 24 hours after she was last seen on the surveillance video, getting in a black car. Dumbfounded by the gruesome discovery, the hunters straight away called 911, and representatives from the local sheriff's office were quickly dispatched to the scene. After an autopsy was performed, it was very clear that whatever happened to Samantha was a completely violent attack. Her body had more than 120 separate stab wounds, with injuries to her face, head, neck, hands, upper body, legs, and feet. It was also determined that her fingernails were hacked to pieces as she tried to shield a razor-sharp-like tool from making contact with her flesh. It seemed that she was stabbed with a double-bladed knife and then dragged to the woods. The autopsy also revealed the extent of Samantha's blood loss compared to the human body, which normally has at least 4 liters of blood to her body, which only contained 20 milliliters of blood. Investigators were able to quickly pull that surveillance video footage from the bar that night before, which revealed that Samantha got into the black Chevrolet Impala car. Investigators noticed that the car was circling the block several times, which seemed that whoever was in it was watching and waiting for a potential victim. The investigators found out that Samantha accidentally got into her killer's car, thinking it was her Uber. The Uber that Samantha called was seen arriving a short time later. However, when the driver found she was not there, he canceled the trip and left. It was likely that the car she was in was not the Uber because she was murdered only a short time later, so investigators believed that the driver probably used childproof locks to trap her inside, because when the childproof lock is on, the doors can only be opened from the outside of a vehicle. So at that point, Samantha would not have been able to get out. The descriptions of the car were quickly revealed to the public in the hopes of finding the perpetrator before he struck again, and fortunately, it didn't take long. After the day when Samantha's body was discovered, the black Chevrolet Impala was spotted by officers on routine patrol at 3 a.m. on March 30th, cruising the very same area Samantha was kidnapped in. When the officers pulled the car over, the driver jumped out of the car and took off running. After a short chase, he was caught a few streets over and arrested. When the police checked his identification, they discovered that the man they had in custody was a 24-year-old resident of New Zion named Nathaniel Rowland. When the patrol officers took a look inside the car, they found a child's car seat in the back, surrounded by what seemed to be bloodstains, which promptly made them call for backup after perceiving that they were looking at a presumed crime scene. When homicide detectives took over, they combed the car from top to bottom and found profuse amounts of blood on the passenger seat and in the trunk, as well as a bloody footprint on one of the back rear windows. Samantha's cell phone was also found still lying on the floorboards, which the detectives would later learn that he had attempted to sell to a pawn shop earlier that day, but he didn't like $125 for the phone offer they gave him, therefore leading him to leave it in the car. The detectives also found the child locks activated, confirming the suspicion that that was exactly how Rowland trapped Samantha in his car. Detectives also found a variety of cleaning products in the car, including bleach, window cleaner, and antibacterial wipes. But luckily, he didn't do that great of a cleaning job because there was still a lot of blood in his car. During his interrogation, Rowland continuously denied having any knowledge of the kidnapping and murder of Samantha Josephson. Even with piling evidence to the contrary, he maintained that he was innocent of the crimes of which he was being accused. When a physical examination was performed on Rowland following his arrest, it unveiled traces of Samantha's DNA under his fingernails. In a bewildering turn of events, despite that her genetic markers were present in him, none of his DNA was found on her. While that was certainly unusual, when detectives pieced together the terrifying details of her final minutes on Earth, these findings made perfect sense. From what they could collect, detectives speculated that Samantha was a victim of a blitz attack. The fact that the childproof locks in the car were still engaged at the time of Rowland's arrest led them to conclude that he activated that feature as soon as his victim got in the car, making it impossible for her to open the doors. Without any means of defending herself, Samantha was left helpless as the man she thought was her Uber driver stabbed her repeatedly with a double-bladed knife. Caught unawares by the ferocious attack, she had to put a lot of effort into trying to keep off the blows, which would account for the multiple stab wounds found on her hands, as well as the condition of her mangled fingernails. Considering the amount of excessive force that was imposed on her, it's understandable that Samantha was not able to scratch her attacker, which would have left his skin cells under her nails. After the dreadful act was done, Rowland drove to a farmer's access road in New Zion, where only a local would have known it existed, and dumped Samantha's body in the nearby woods. After arriving back home, Rowland spent much of the day posting on social media as if nothing had happened. Since he lived there nearly all of his life, and his residence was only minutes away from where the remains were found, that was two more strong pieces of evidence that pointed fingers to him as the killer. A peek into his background disclosed that Rowland was a devout churchgoer who had attended South Carolina State University in 2017, although there are no records of his having graduated, and it's not clear what he was doing for employment at the time. Rowland had one past felony arrest from October 2018 for obtaining a signature or property under pretenses. There was also a woman who was carjacked by two men, one of them being Rowland, who assaulted her and forced her to drive to an ATM where they took her money. Then they forced her to drive home, where they robbed her of even more of her belongings, including a PlayStation 4. Rowland was never convicted of robbing the woman. However, he did sell some of the woman's stolen belongings, including the PlayStation 4. When detectives obtained a search warrant for his girlfriend's apartment named Maria Howard in New Zion where he lived, they combed the trash bins behind the apartment, and they found a sock and bandana allegedly belonging to Rowland that were heavily stained with Samantha's blood. The detectives also found a white sheet with blood on it, a roll of duct tape, bleach wipes with blood on them, and a two-bladed knife that seemed to have blood on it. Tests would later confirm that the blood found on the two-bladed knife, as well as blood found on the sheets, blood found in the car, and blood found on bleach wipes, was a match for Samantha Josephson. With the evidence against him mounting swiftly, Rowland was initially charged with possessing a weapon during a violent crime, the kidnapping and murder of Samantha Josephson. The trial would be grueling for the family, with Nathaniel Rowland pleading not guilty, claiming he was innocent even with the mountain of evidence against him. When the trial began in the summer of 2021, Rowland's defense team argued that their client was an innocent man, based largely on the fact that his DNA had not been found on his alleged victim. On the other hand, prosecutors countered the defendant's claims of innocence with the undeniable amount of evidence that was collected in the case. Amid the proof they put forward was the CCTV footage showing his car picking Samantha up in 5 points and driving away, the quarts of her blood that were found in his car, her bloody footprint on the vehicle's back window, allegations that he tried to use her bank card at an ATM after disposing of her body, cell phone trackers that placed their devices in the same place at the time of the murder, and the fact that he lived near where her remains were discovered. A handwriting expert was also brought in to compare Rowland's handwriting to a list that was written on a piece of paper found in his home. On that list, it was written, "Duct tape, tape her whole body, gloves, all black, flip phone, gasoline, matches." The expert testified it was most likely that Rowland wrote the list, which sounded as if it was all planned. The prosecutors called 31 witnesses to testify, including someone who saw Rowland cleaning that weapon, the pawn shop owner to whom he tried to sell her Samantha's cell phone, and his ex-girlfriend who claimed her daughter had blood on her shoe after being in Rowland's car after the murder. Rowland called no witnesses, and none of his family testified for him. Still, he maintained his innocence and pleaded with the judge. It took the jury only an hour to deliver a guilty verdict, and Nathaniel Rowland was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In the wake of Samantha's murder, her parents Seymour and Marcy Josephson took it upon themselves to see to it that no one else suffered the same fate as their beloved daughter. As a means of achieving this goal, they started the What's My Name Foundation, which encourages people of all ages who contact rideshare agencies to ask the driver to identify them by name before setting foot inside a stranger's vehicle. The Josephsons also encouraged rideshare users to be mindful of a safety protocol they call SAMI, which stands for Stop, Ask, Match, and Inform. In the aftermath of Samantha's murder, the rideshare industry also took steps to protect drivers and passengers alike. One of the safeguards put in place was the issuance of a personalized 4-digit code that riders could use to confirm through the app that they were getting into the right car. Samantha's untimely death sent shockwaves through the hearts of her family and friends. The pain they bear is immeasurable, a testament to the bright light that Samantha was in their lives. Samantha Lee Josephson's story is a stark reminder that tragedy can strike unexpectedly. May her memory inspire us to be vigilant, look out for one another, and work collectively toward creating a world where safety and compassion prevail. In the serene setting of Middlesbrough, England, a picturesque town, the illusion of an ideal marriage masked a grim and malevolent truth. Enter the narrative of Jessica Patel and Mitesh Patel, a saga intertwining love, treachery, and a sorrowful crime that would plunge the community into a state of disbelief and shock. Jessica, a devoted pharmacist renowned for her compassion and work ethic, and Mitesh, her spouse, projected an image of contentment and stability in their shared life. However, beneath the veneer of marital bliss lurked undisclosed conflicts and a complex network of deception that would ultimately lead to a harrowing act of violence. Jessica Patel, the eldest child of Jai Patel, entered the world on 16 September 1983 in Leeds, a town nestled in the historic region of West Yorkshire. She was raised in a traditional Desi extended family of 12 members. Despite their modest middle-class lifestyle, the family shared a deep bond of love. Divya Patel, her sister, fondly recalls Jessica as a lively and humorous individual. From a tender age, Jessica displayed nurturing qualities and harbored dreams of pursuing a career as a pharmacologist. Mitesh Patel, who was 3 years older than Jessica, shared the same pharmacology course with her at Montfort University. Their initial connection stemmed from encounters at community gatherings where their similar backgrounds and mutual understanding sparked a blossoming romance. Mitesh portrayed an ideal image of a partner, surprising Jessica with romantic gestures and adorable gifts. However, their relationship faced a hurdle when Jessica's mother received a devastating diagnosis of terminal cancer. Jessica understandably chose to be with her mother during her final moments, causing a strain on her relationship with Mitesh. Following the loss of Jessica's mother, Mitesh took on a supportive role, reigniting their bond. They nurtured their relationship and found themselves deeply in love with each other. Jessica expressed her desire to marry Mitesh, a sentiment he reciprocated wholeheartedly. Their mutual affection and shared dream of marriage encapsulated the essence of young love. After completing her pharmaceutical sciences degree at Montfort University, Jessica secured a place at the esteemed Manchester University for a master's program in pharmacology. Coincidentally, her boyfriend Mitesh was also studying at the same university in the final year of the same degree. They found themselves deeply in love, sharing the same city, university, career path, community, and religion, a seemingly perfect Desi match. However, when Mitesh sought Jessica's father's approval for their marriage, he faced a direct refusal. The family believed it was too early, but Jessica managed to convince them otherwise, emphasizing Mitesh and his family's strong Hindu beliefs that urged them not to delay. Despite initial objections, Jessica's father eventually relented under her persistent requests and reluctantly gave his consent. Their union culminated in a grand Indian wedding attended by 500 guests, leaving Jessica overjoyed. The extravagant ceremony took place in the garden of Jessica's family residence in Leeds, setting the stage for what seemed like a perfect beginning to their shared life. However, beneath the facade of marital bliss, Mitesh harbored a dark secret, leading a double life and engaging in covert encounters with men on Grindr unbeknownst to his new wife. The marriage served as a facade to conceal his authentic sexual orientation from his devout parents and the broader Hindu community. In less than a year, Jessica's family began to detect fissures within the relationship. She confided in her sisters about feeling neglected by Mitesh, highlighting how his once attentive demeanor waned shortly after their nuptials. Gayatri Patel, Jessica's cousin, recalled, "She mentioned that they had not had a sexual relationship for 10 months. That came as a shock, and at the same time, Mitesh became controlling." During her grandfather's palliative care in February 2010, Jessica, who shared a close bond with him, made infrequent visits while the family maintained a bedside vigil. Minal, her sister, recounted Jessica's distress, revealing, "Mitesh forbade her from staying with her grandfather. She expressed, 'Mitesh won't let me stay.' She said they got into an argument in the car over it, and he hit her." Jessica also divulged instances of him throttling her and maintaining an air of secrecy. Minal added, if he was on the phone when she walked into the room to go to bed, he would walk out and continue the conversation in one of their loft rooms upstairs, and that he wouldn't come back down to bed sometimes until 4 a.m. After being married for just 2 years, Mitesh embarked on a heated affair with Dr. Amit Patel, whom he had met through Grindr. Shockingly, Mitesh brazenly invited his lover to stay with them, passing him off as a mere friend. Despite this betrayal, Mitesh and Jessica eventually realized another shared aspiration a few years into their marriage, becoming pharmacy owners. Transitioning from Leeds to Linthorpe, a city located 66 miles away, they acquired the Roman Road Pharmacy on Roman Road. Through dedication and hard work, they transformed the pharmacy into a thriving establishment, not only achieving business success, but also establishing it as a cornerstone of the local community. Their journey to entrepreneurship also saw them purchase a residence in an upscale area of Linthorpe, becoming proud homeowners. Over time, both Mitesh and Jessica earned the admiration of the community, solidifying their positions as respected and beloved contributors to the quaint rural town of Linthorpe. In a bid to salvage their marriage, Jessica viewed the relocation as a new beginning, while Mitesh persisted in his relationship with Amit and maintained his presence on gay dating platforms. The couple faced mounting pressure to start a family, eventually leading Jessica to agree to attempt IVF after enduring 6 years of a sexless union. Unbeknownst to Jessica, Mitesh harbored chilling intentions of utilizing her embryos to establish a family with his lover. In a disturbing turn of events, Mitesh messaged Amit about Jessica's IVF procedure, inquiring, "Will you stand by me?" Amit's response was nonchalant, stating, "She might not even get pregnant. We will deal with it when it happens." Mitesh also insinuated that Jessica would no longer hinder their plans, hinting at her premature departure with the words, "If she went earlier than you think." In 2016, as Amit relocated to Australia, Mitesh's aspirations for a fresh life with his partner in the land down under began to take shape. Sending a text to his lover, he ominously wrote, "I'm telling you, her days are marked." The journey was an emotional roller coaster for Jessica, who endured the heartbreak and strain of 3 rounds of IVF within a span of 2 years. Recounting the arduous process, her sister Minal shared, "After each failed attempt, Jessica told me, 'I can't do this, it's too painful.' Her mental health suffered. It was quite a struggle. She suffered from anxiety and had regular panic attacks." On May 9, 2018, Jessica embarked on the 4th IVF cycle, which proved successful. The couple received the news of 3 fertilized embryos scheduled for implantation the ensuing month. Just 4 days post the positive revelation, Jessica visited her family, brimming with excitement. Minal recalled, "She was absolutely ecstatic. The chances of becoming a mother was finally on her, and her dreams were coming true." Tragically, a mere day later, her joy was abruptly extinguished. On the night of May 14, 2018, Jessica returned home around 7:10 p.m. after working late at the pharmacy. As she entered, Mitesh attacked her, forcing a Tesco bag over her head to suffocate her before strangling her and breaking the bones in her voice box. Jessica fought back, scratching his neck, but within 20 minutes, he had taken her life. Mitesh then bound her feet and hands with duct tape and ransacked the house to stage a robbery. Afterward, he drove to a local pizza restaurant and texted his wife's phone, pretending to be picking up an order. CCTV footage from the restaurant showed him chatting amiably with the staff while his wife lay dead in their living room. At 8:22 p.m., Mitesh called 911 from the couple's home and reported to the emergency operator that they believed their residence had been burgled and that his wife had been assaulted. He provided the address as number 35, the avenue in Middlesbrough, Linthorpe. When questioned about his wife's current location, Mitesh confirmed she was at the same address. He explained that upon returning home from being out, where he had gone to eat, visit colleagues at work, and retrieve his laptop, he found the house in disarray with his wife lying on the floor, unconscious and bound with duct tape. The conversation persisted as the operator endeavored to pacify Mitesh while extracting further details about the dire circumstances. Mitesh narrated the scene within the house, elaborating on Jessica's condition with duct tape restraining her and rendering her unconscious. Urged by the operator, Mitesh recounted the gravity of Jessica's breathing distress. Upon confirming her inability to breathe, the operator provided reassurance of imminent assistance. The call concluded with Mitesh's desperate pleas for Jessica to regain consciousness and his request for the operator to notify his father-in-law about the unfolding tragedy. Tragically, Jessica was declared deceased at the scene, leaving Mitesh shattered. Despite their 12-year bond and seemingly idyllic life, she was abruptly snatched away from him. After swiftly securing the residence and commencing evidence collection, the police initially treated the incident as a botched burglary. Mitesh, along with Jai and other family members, willingly provided their statements to law enforcement. Surprisingly, even the family remained unsuspecting, offering solace to Mitesh just 48 hours following the tragedy during a house visit. Recalling the moment, Jessica's sister Minal recounted, "I walked straight up to him, sat down on the sofa, and went to hug him. He immediately buried his head in my shoulder. At that point, I thought he was genuinely crying." Jessica's father, Jay, remarked, "Why would somebody do this? Jessica was not the sort of person who would confront anybody. But not for one moment was I thinking Mitesh could have done this. I was comforting him. I held his hand. He let me do all that." Despite these interactions, the autopsy results disclosed that Jessica's cause of death was asphyxiation, indicating oxygen deprivation in her bloodstream. The presence of neck injuries confirmed she had been strangled. The initial suspicion arose from a potential burglary scenario indicated by the disorderly state of the house when Mitesh contacted emergency services. Nevertheless, the absence of forced entry indications prompted concerns. It became apparent that the scene of the crime had been manipulated to mimic a burglary, deflecting attention from the true perpetrator. Law enforcement promptly cordoned off the premises and initiated the gathering of evidence. CCTV footage played a critical role in outlining the sequence of events. Recorded on camera, Mitesh was seen briefly leaving the house to retrieve his laptop and purchase pizza, establishing a 40-minute time frame within which the crime might have occurred. Upon further scrutiny of the CCTV footage and digital evidence, significant disparities in Mitesh's recollection of events emerged. Investigators uncovered that Jessica had arrived home 40 minutes before Mitesh departed, suggesting that they were both in the residence together during that time frame. This contradicted Mitesh's assertion of discovering Jessica unconscious and bound upon his return. Additionally, the police gained access to data from the Apple Health app on the couple's Apple Watches. This data furnished crucial insights into their heart rates and movements at the time of the incident. Analysis revealed a sudden spike in Jessica's heart rate upon her arrival home, followed by a cessation of her pulse. These findings indicated that she had passed away while Mitesh was present in the house. Furthermore, Mitesh's Apple Health app data exhibited erratic movements within the residence following the cessation of Jessica's heart rate. These actions correlated with the staged burglary setup, implying that Mitesh was attempting to fabricate the presence of an intruder and conceal his role in the incident. The forensic examination of the crime scene revealed compelling evidence against Mitesh. His DNA was detected beneath Jessica's fingernails, indicating a physical altercation, and on the plastic bag utilized to asphyxiate her. While he tried to justify the presence of his DNA by stating that he touched her face to remove the tape, the sole presence of his DNA on the bag contradicted his explanation. Furthermore, investigators discovered that Mitesh had conducted internet searches related to staging a burglary and killing a spouse, dating back to 2012. This revealed a premeditated intent to commit the crime and demonstrated that Mitesh had been planning Jessica's murder for a significant period. On May 17, 2018, 4 days after the murder, an arrest was made and the suspect was taken into police custody. It was a man, a 37-year-old man. It was Jessica Patel's husband, Mitesh Patel. As the evidence unfolded, the extent of Mitesh Patel's deceit and manipulation emerged with striking clarity. The family was left in disbelief as they grappled with the revelations, further shocked during the trial as details of Mitesh's illicit relationships, his involvement with Amit, and his elaborate scheme to abscond with the embryos came to light. Reflecting on the trial, Jessica's sister Meenal expressed, "95% of what was said was a complete shock to us." While there is no indication that his partner anticipated Mitesh's violent act, unsettling text messages presented in court included one chilling message to Amit that starkly stated, "Her days are numbered." Mitesh used Jessica as a means to hide his homosexuality and conform to societal expectations within their conservative community. Growing up in a traditional household, Mitesh was aware that his sexual orientation would be unacceptable to his family and the larger community. To maintain his image, he married Jessica, projecting the illusion of a happy, heterosexual relationship. However, once they were married, his true nature emerged. Beneath the facade of a happily married 37-year-old pharmacy owner lay a deceitful, promiscuous, and abusive man who was living a lie. Throughout their marriage, Jessica unearthed Mitesh's clandestine engagements on the homosexual dating platform Grindr and directly addressed the issue. She had intercepted his conversations with other men and was cognizant of his unfaithfulness within their union. Mitesh deliberately underwent treatment to diminish his sperm count. This deliberate action aimed to reduce the likelihood of impregnating Jessica during their intimate encounters. By diminishing his sperm count, Mitesh actively sought to avert conception and pursue his hidden agenda of abstaining from parenthood with Jessica. Despite Jessica's aspirations of surmounting their challenges, including their unsuccessful endeavors at conceiving through IVF and re-establishing stability and joy in their relationship, the exposure of Mitesh's homosexuality and intentions to relocate to Australia with another individual ultimately shattered any lingering hopes of a contented future together. Moreover, Mitesh exhibited a recurring pattern of abusive conduct towards Jessica. Various individuals, including pharmacy employees, frequently witnessed Mitesh displaying hostile outbursts aimed at Jessica, even in the presence of customers and colleagues. These episodes often left Jessica visibly distraught as Mitesh would forcefully shut doors, hurl objects, and kick the base of the island in the dispensary. In terms of physical mistreatment, employees also noted Jessica's impaired mobility, with Jessica disclosing to them that she had sustained a bruise on her leg due to Mitesh throwing his mobile phone at her, resulting in the injury. Despite these adversities, Jessica remained steadfast in their marital relationship, potentially motivated by her affection for Mitesh and her yearning to establish a family. The trial of Mitesh Patel commenced on November 13, 2018, at Teesside Crown Court, where the prosecution put forth a case characterized by its unsettling intricacies. They unveiled that Mitesh had engaged in extramarital relationships with other men, leading a dual existence, one portraying him as a devoted spouse and esteemed pharmacist, and the other concealing his true identity as a homosexual individual, plotting to embark on a fresh journey with his boyfriend in Australia. Additionally, the prosecution disclosed Mitesh's intention to utilize Jessica's cryopreserved embryos to conceive a child with his partner, Dr. Amit Patel. Mitesh had fostered a romantic bond with Dr. Amit and strategized a relocation to Australia alongside him, intending to utilize the insurance payout from Jessica's demise, valued at nearly £2 million, to finance their new chapter. The prosecution contended that Mitesh had meticulously orchestrated Jessica's murder over an extended period, delving into internet research on methods of perpetrating the act. The defense maintained Mitesh's innocence, arguing that the evidence against him was based on circumstances and lacked direct proof of his involvement in the crime. They contended that an unidentified perpetrator was responsible and that Mitesh was being falsely incriminated. Following a 3-week trial, on December 4, 2018, the jury delivered their verdict. Mitesh Patel was convicted of murdering his wife, Jessica Patel. Justice James Goss, the presiding judge, imposed a life sentence with a minimum term of 30 years. During sentencing, Justice Goss remarked, "You have no remorse for your actions. Any pity you have is for yourself." He also noted, "You were an accomplished liar and continued to lie, including in your evidence to the jury." The community was stunned by the verdict, with many acquaintances of Mitesh and Jessica struggling to come to terms with the revelation of Mitesh's deceitful facade and the chilling act of violence he committed against Jessica, whom they had viewed as a harmonious couple. Jessica's family experienced profound devastation as they mourned the loss of a cherished daughter and sister. The individual they had welcomed into their family circle, believing in his trustworthiness, had shattered that trust in a profoundly shocking manner. In their statement, they expressed, "Jessica was our life. She had a bright future ahead of her. She was taken away from us in the cruelest of ways." Jessica's premature passing left an irreplaceable void in the hearts of her loved ones, acquaintances, and the wider community. Their anguish and mourning stand as a poignant tribute to the vibrant and empathetic life that was abruptly extinguished. Following this tragedy, the residents of Middlesbrough rallied together to pay homage to Jessica's legacy, extending unwavering support and unity to her mourning kin. Their resilience and solidarity amidst such adversity underscore the potency of communal empathy and fortitude. The narrative encompassing Jessica and Mitesh Patel serves as a stark reminder of the concealed perils that may lurk within relationships, underscoring the essentiality of vigilance and aid for those enduring silent struggles. May Jessica's memory kindle within us a resolve to treasure our dear ones, to seek assistance when necessary, and to advocate for a world where all can exist devoid of fear and harm. In a world where fame and vulnerability collide, one woman's story will forever echo through the corridors of time. A dazzling model turned actress, Rebecca Sheffer, was destined for greatness. But on a fateful day, destiny took a sinister turn. In the chilling depths of obsession, a man described as a deranged fan shattered the dreams of a promising star. He confessed that his twisted inspiration came from a 1982 People magazine article, a grim tale of Arthur Jackson's horrifying visit to Raging Bull actress Teresa Saldanha's doorstep, determined to snuff out her light. Today, we unravel the threads of tragedy and obsession as we journey through the chilling events that shook Hollywood and pay tribute to a life cut short. This is the chilling story of Rebecca Sheffer. In the quiet corners of Eugene, in Oregon, beneath the canopy of towering trees, a star was born. On November 6, 1967, the world welcomed Rebecca Lucille Sheffer, a luminous soul destined for greatness. Born to Jewish parents, Donna Sheffer, a writer and instructor who taught at Willamette University, and Benson Sheffer, a compassionate child psychologist, the Sheffer family embodied love, unity, and a profound connection to their Jewish heritage. In her own words, she once described her family as a three-legged stool, steadfast and unbreakable no matter the distance that separated them. Little did they know that their daughter would one day capture the hearts of millions, leaving an indelible mark on the world. Rebecca's dreams, however, were as diverse as the colors of the world she'd come to embrace. From contemplating the sacred path of becoming a rabbi to the vibrant adventures that lay ahead, her spirit radiated with endless possibilities. The family moved from the cozy embrace of Eugene to the vibrant city of Portland, where Rebecca's journey began. In the hallowed halls of Lincoln High School, she wasn't just a student. She was a shining star, excelling both in her studies and social circles. But destiny had a different path. It was her hairdresser who spotted the spark within her and introduced her to Troutman Profiles Incorporated at a tender age of 14. Within a period of time, she found herself gracing department store catalogs as she showcased the latest fashionable outfits for the back-to-school season. Modeling became her passion, her runway to the stars. In her heart, the dream of becoming a rabbi had quietly faded away, making room for a new kind of devotion. In August 1984, Rebecca wrapped up her New York internship at just 16, drawn to the city's vibrant pulse and endless promise. Instead of heading back to Portland to complete her high school education, she boldly chose to remain in the Big Apple, attending the professional children's school while chasing her dreams of modeling and acting. In a whirlwind, she secured her spot as Annie Barnes in the soap opera One Life to Live. The fashion world, however, hesitated due to her height. At 5'7", she stood 2 inches shorter than the average fashion model. Undaunted, she ventured to Japan, hoping for a breakthrough, but unfortunately, things did not go her way as she found a detour back to New York with a newfound focus on acting, which turned out to be the best choice at the time. Her decision led her to settle into the dazzling world of celebrity, where love intertwined with fame as she started dating Brad Silberling, a 23-year-old graduate student studying filmmaking at UCLA who later went on to become a successful director. Well, with fame comes a wave of adoring fans, and Rebecca, too, was not excluded from their passionate devotion. As the fan mail started pouring in, Rebecca's joy was palpable, and she shared her excitement with Judy Crown, a hairstylist who worked on the sitcom My Sister Sam. But Judy, with a sense of unease, cautioned Rebecca not to engage with these tokens of admiration, for she knew all too well that the world could hold its share of unpredictability. In a heartfelt interview with the Television Academy Foundation, she painted a picture of Rebecca as someone strikingly beautiful and irresistibly charming, but still had a little bit of innocence. In 1988, the curtains fell on My Sister Sam, marking a turning point for Rebecca. Her next role in Scenes from the Class Struggle in Beverly Hills, directed by Paul Bartle, showcased a different side, a trendy and stylish black comedy that expanded her horizons. With newfound sensibility, she even auditioned for The Godfather 3. Rebecca was on the brink of a promising acting career when tragedy struck on that very day that she was set to audition for the coveted role of Michael Corleone's daughter in The Godfather 3, a chance that could have transformed her life forever. A man who was an unemployed fast food worker from Tucson in Arizona, driven by an unhealthy obsession towards her, shattered her dreams. The man behind this tragic twist was Robert John Bardo. Robert John Bardo was the son of a former Air Force officer and the youngest of 7 siblings. Growing up in Tucson, he had become the object of relentless physical and psychological abuse during that period. A ticking time bomb is how one teacher described him, haunted by his experiences. At just 13, he had embarked on a haunting journey, boarding a bus to Maine in pursuit of Samantha Smith, the child famous for her letter to Mikhail Gorbachev. Authorities intervened, bringing him back to Tucson. He was hospitalized twice for severe emotional trauma. A troubled student who penned threatening letters to his teachers, Bardo would soon find a chilling obsession. As a 16-year-old janitor at a fast food joint, he discovered an escape in reality television. His fixation took hold in the fall of 1986, focusing on the character Patty, which was portrayed by Rebecca Sheffer. He even transformed his bedroom into a shrine to her and had started writing letters to Rebecca just like all the other countless fans did. When Rebecca responded, deeming his letter the most beautiful whilst drawing a peace sign, a heart, and signing it off by writing with love from Rebecca, it ignited a spark in Bardo. The day Bardo received the letter, he wrote in his diary, "When I think of her, I would like to become famous to impress her." In June 1987, Bardo stood at the gates of the Burbank studio where My Sister Sam was produced, clutching a teddy bear and a bouquet of roses, all for Rebecca. The guard, however, stood firm, denying him entry. Undeterred, he returned a month later, this time with a knife, but destiny yet again refused to open those doors for him. In his diary, he made an ominous declaration, "I don't lose, period." Retreating to Tucson, he watched class struggle in Beverly Hills, where Rebecca's intimate scene with a male actor shattered his perception of her innocence. According to him, she had now become one more of the trollops of Hollywood, and in his twisted perspective, he believed it was his duty to discipline what he saw as Rebecca's moral transgressions. He meticulously sketched a diagram of Rebecca's body, marking the spots where he intended to shoot her. He had attempted to purchase a gun, but the owner of the shop refused to sell one to him when he found out about Bardo's history of mental illness. Desperate to acquire a weapon, he turned to his older brother, making a pact to use it only for target practice. An ominous letter to his sister in Tennessee spoke of a sinister determination. "If I can't have Rebecca, then no one will." He boarded a bus bound for Hollywood, hell-bent on tracking her down. Bardo's obsession had escalated. On July 17, 1989, he called Rebecca's agent's office, desperately seeking her whereabouts, but they wisely refused to divulge any information. Undaunted, he took to the streets, thrusting her photo at strangers probing for her address, but had no luck. His determination, however, knew no bounds, so much so that he even parted with $300 to enlist a private investigator's help. The investigator, using DMV records, found her address very quickly, a shocking reminder that at the time, driver's license information was public knowledge. The pieces of this chilling puzzle were unfortunately falling into place and in favor of John. On the eerie evening of July 18, 1989, armed with Rebecca's address, Bardo, donned in a yellow polo shirt, set foot at the building she lived and rang her doorbell. The intercom wasn't working, so she came downstairs to the apartment building's front door, and there, face to face, she encountered the man she had never expected to see. It wasn't the Godfather script she had been expecting for delivery, but instead was a man claiming to be her biggest fan, bearing a letter and an autographed photo she had previously sent. Following a brief exchange, Rebecca, with a sense of unease, urged Bardo to leave and never come back, firmly closing the door behind her. Bardo reluctantly retreated, leaving an ominous cloud hanging in the air. After grabbing a meal an hour later, he reappeared at her doorstep like a shadow, refusing to fade away. When Rebecca opened the door again, he fired a .357 caliber handgun at point-blank range. In a chilling account, Bardo recalled the incident as he mentioned that she had a childlike voice, likening it to that of a brat, and that she accused him of wasting her time. This angered him and he reached for the door, all this while keeping the gun in his bag, and then pulled the trigger, which resulted to her screams. In the echoing aftermath of 2 deafening gunshots and the bone-chilling screams, a neighbor named Richard Goldman sprang into action. Racing to Rebecca's door, he encountered a scene of sheer horror, an ethereal figure clad in a black robe trembling in the building's entrance. With trembling hands, he checked her pulse, but it was a futile endeavor. Life had already departed. Her limbs sprawled haphazardly, wedged between the door and its frame. Witnesses had spotted a young man in a yellow shirt jogging up the Hollywood block, where he veered into the walkway and vanished. Rebecca was swiftly rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where she fought for 30 agonizing minutes before succumbing to her wounds. Her final journey took her back to her native Oregon, where she found her resting place. The very next day in Tucson, chaos erupted on Highway 10 as frantic motorists dialed 911 to report a man recklessly darting through traffic, seemingly seeking a tragic collision. He instantly admitted to Rebecca's murder. Arizona police promptly transmitted his photo to Los Angeles, where witnesses verified his identity. In court, he looked dizzy and disoriented, and he said, "I could probably tell you what I did after I killed her. How I got sick and all, but I don't feel like it." A year post the tragedy, Bardo granted an interview where he mentioned how he was a devoted fan and had perhaps let it consume him. He further claimed that the media had painted him as a monster, which we all agree he is, and that he had one wish, which was to see Rebecca Sheffer alive again. When news of the murder reached Bardo's sister, she took a crucial step and contacted the authorities about her troubled brother. Soon, he was extradited to California, ready to face the courtroom trial. Bardo's defense attorneys launched a bold argument claiming that his traumatic childhood, which was marked by abuse, had left him with an unstable mental disorder which rendered him incapable of premeditated murder. His brother testified, revealing that Bardo had previously been confined to a psychiatric hospital during his youth. Bardo found himself on trial, prosecuted by the notable Marcia Clark, who would later gain notoriety for her role in the O.J. Simpson case. On October 29, 1991, he received a first-degree murder conviction in a non-jury courtroom, leading to a life sentence without parole handed down by Superior Court Judge Dino Fulgoni. With eyes aflame like sinister neons, Bardo addressed the judge, declaring that the notion that he killed her for fame was utterly absurd. He added that he comprehended the gravity of his actions and didn't think it needed to be compounded by a web of deceit just because she was an actress. On July 28, 2007, during his prison sentence, he endured a vicious attack, leaving him with 11 stabs and puncture wounds, a stark reminder of the consequences of his actions. Bardo is jailed at Avenal State Prison in California, where he spends much of his time drawing celebrities. The tragic murder of Rebecca Sheffer and the assault on Teresa Saldana catalyzed significant change. Governor George Dickmajian took action, signing a groundbreaking law that barred the DMV from releasing addresses. It also inspired the creation of the first-ever threat management team within the Los Angeles Police Department. In 1990, California pioneered anti-stalking legislation, which took effect on the first day of 1991. This pioneering law served as a model, aiding in the conviction of numerous criminals. Notably, by 1990, California became the very first state to pass such anti-stalking legislation. However, the need for change was undeniable. Despite restraining orders, 4 women in Orange County had lost their lives to men who had been relentlessly harassing them in the previous year. The rest of the nation soon followed suit, with all states and even Canada enacting anti-stalking laws by 1993, a powerful testament to the enduring legacy of these tragic events. As we conclude this heart-wrenching journey, the echoes of Rebecca Sheffer's tragic fate and the resilience of those who responded to her untimely loss still reverberate. In the wake of darkness, her story ignited change, ushering in a new era of protection for countless individuals. She leaves behind a legacy not only as a brilliant actress and model, but above all as an extraordinary human being, forever etched in our hearts. May her memory and legacy forever live in our hearts and minds. For those who knew her only on the surface, 45-year-old Lauren Stewart appeared to lead a life of perfection. A dedicated wife to Dan, a loving mother to her adult children, Stephen and Bethany, it seemed as though fate had truly smiled upon her. Weeks before her unthinkable act, she delved into a dark world, exploring haunting paths on YouTube, delving into methods of ending her own life, and mastering the use of a Glock handgun. This is the enigmatic tale of Lauren Stewart. Lauren Devine Stewart was born on January 9, 1973. She spent most of her life in Michigan, and her work history included part-time personal training at YMCA in Farmington Hills and occasional house cleaning. After leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, she had pursued modeling and acting, exploring her creative side through workshops and networking with photographers. She was regarded as a charming and very pleasant woman. According to one of her profiles on the internet, she wrote, "I love acting and modeling. I'm a very passionate person and it reflects my work. I'm adventurous in nature, and so I like a wide variety of acting and modeling experiences. I enjoy learning new things, especially with good direction. Sharing relative ideas, new and old, intrigues me. Life is an adventure, and my goal is to die knowing I did the things I wanted to do." Lauren was married to a man named Nathaniel Stewart. Dan worked at the University of Michigan. At the forefront of technological innovation, he served as a lead software architect, dedicated to developing technology for predicting heart attacks. He worked in the technology industry for many years as a coder developer. Together with his wife, they remained devout Christians within the Jehovah's Witness denomination for an extended period, until 2013 when they decided to explore and take a different approach to their spiritual life. The couple had two accomplished children, 27-year-old Stephen and 24-year-old Bethany. A data solution architect and a computer whiz, Stephen, like his father, shared a passion for technology, while Bethany showcased her talents in art and graphic design. At 45, Lauren Stewart had it all: a flourishing husband, two college-educated children, a budding modeling career, and a charming Kego Harbor home adorned with a welcoming heart wreath on the door. But behind this facade of perfection lurked a hidden pain. Lauren grappled with the heartache of exclusion and rejection from the religion she and Daniel were born into. Just a few years back, Lauren and her husband chose to break away from the Jehovah's Witness faith, a Christian denomination notorious for its strict indoctrination and the practice of shunning former members. The idyllic exterior masked a complex web of emotions and choices that would soon unravel into a gripping narrative. You see, up until 2013, Lauren and her family had been devout Jehovah's Witnesses, strictly adhering to beliefs that shunned celebrations like birthdays, Easter, Christmas, or any other event they believed went against the teachings of Christ. In addition, their faith strongly discouraged higher education, putting Stephen and Bethany at risk of being excommunicated if they pursued college in the future. Dan, however, envisioned a brighter future for their children through higher education. When they sought approval from the church elders to let their kids pursue degrees, the response was resolute: disobey the church's policies and face disfellowship. This threat weighed heavily on the Stewarts, as almost everyone they knew, including their extended family, were part of the congregation, and according to the church's rules, excommunication would mean complete isolation, even from their own flesh and blood. After careful consideration, the Stewarts made a bold decision to leave the religion they had long embraced. Although it initially felt right, the community's disapproval became unbearable, especially for Lauren. She described how simple tasks like grocery shopping were marred by dirty looks and hurtful comments from once-believed friends. Even though the belittling remarks were not spoken directly to her, they were intentionally made within earshot. Residing in a small community of just 3,300 residents, many of whom were Jehovah's Witnesses, the Stewarts grappled with the reality that the members in good terms with the church would consistently remind them of their outcast status whenever the opportunity presented itself. This emotional burden took its toll, leading to a breaking point. In search of a lifeline, Lauren turned to the gym, making it a regular part of her life to rebuild her physical well-being. Her transformation was so remarkable that she secured a job as a fitness instructor, leveraging her natural beauty to become a model with surprising success. To those who crossed her path during this time, Lauren appeared pleasant, exuding optimism despite her church's rejection. Yet beneath her facade of confidence lay a profound and unimaginable suffering. Chronic depression, an affliction she battled even before the shunning, intensified with each passing day. Desperately masking her inner turmoil, she would occasionally reveal cracks in her facade, quickly concealing them with a fake smile. One of Lauren's most guarded secrets was the family's crippling debt, pushing them to the edge of ruin. Faced with a dual onslaught of financial and emotional distress, she devised a plan to resolve all her problems at once. Haunted by her inner demons, Lauren Stewart's descent into darkness was both chilling and heartbreaking. She delved into grim research, scouring YouTube for methods of ending her own life and instructional videos on handling a handgun, all leading up to a fateful day. On February 15, 2018, she left a poignant note on the dinner table, meticulously tidied the home, and texted her loved ones as well as her husband's boss. Just before the unthinkable act, she turned over all the family photos on a secretary desk. At 9:24 a.m., she sent a message to her husband's boss that said, "Mark, this is Lauren. Dan had an accident this morning and died. I can't talk now. Someone will inform you later on the details at hospital." The boss reached out for further details but got no response. Hours later, at 5:07 p.m. on the same day, she reached out to her cousin confessing she had become evil and said the following words: "I took my husband and kids with me so that they don't have to feel my selfish act. They will sleep until Christ resurrects them. I truly hope you do better where I failed." To which her cousin responded, "Lauren, you are scaring me. What are you saying? Don't do it, Lauren." Lauren had become more and more detached from reality in recent months. Unbeknownst to her family, she had a pistol in her possession and had tragically decided to turn it against the very people she professed to love, one by one. This heartbreaking culmination of her internal torment resulted in a devastating series of acts. Her first victim was her husband, 47-year-old Dan, who unsuspectingly relaxed in their furnished basement. Lauren, armed and determined, used a throw pillow as a makeshift silencer and shot him in the head as he attempted to flee. With her most significant threat eliminated, she ascended the stairs. Upstairs, her 24-year-old daughter, Bethany, who had recently celebrated her birthday, lay asleep in her room. Without hesitation, Lauren positioned herself just feet from the bed, aimed the gun, and ended her daughter's life in an instant. Next, her son Stephen, who had his own place across town, unknowingly arrived at the family home, lured by false pretenses. Oblivious to the imminent danger, he busied himself with the task his mother had prepared. With his back turned, unaware of what was coming, Lauren, the mother he loved, shot him at point-blank range. The horrifying scene didn't end there. Lauren took the life of the family dog, placing its body in the bathtub. A neighbor had heard these shots, but assumed someone was slamming doors. As the house became a chilling temporary morgue, she meticulously tidied up. The darkness culminated as Lauren turned the gun on herself, using a method she had researched online. The cousin who Lauren had texted tried texting her back, but Lauren never responded. The cousin went over to her house the following morning on February 16th with a friend. With no response at the door, they contacted the police for a welfare check. When police arrived at the house the morning of February 16th, the kitchen was organized. The refrigerator was stocked. Handwritten labels were on various items, and a calendar hung on the refrigerator. Their discovery began with the family dog in the bathtub, triggering a chilling response from the officers who feared there was an active shooter. "Get your gun out! There's a dead dog in the tub," one had yelled to a partner. Climbing a spiral staircase to the second floor, they found Stephen Stewart on the floor, believed to have been shot while seated on a chair. In another room, Bethany lay lifeless, shot in her sleep with a pillow muffling the sound. Gunshots were also noticeable on the pillowcase. Dan Stewart was discovered on the basement floor in front of a couch, his right hand still in his jeans pocket. The slightly pulled white pocket liner on his left pocket suggested he was standing when he was shot and attempted to react, thus pulling the pocket liner. Upstairs, Lauren was discovered at the base of the stairs, a pistol by her side, her self-inflicted wound between the eyes echoing her online research. 2 notes were found on the dinner table. One was for the medical examiner, while the other, a chilling suicide note, exposed Lauren's inner turmoil. I allowed evil into my heart when I chose not to accept God's free love, and it made me sick inside, Lauren wrote. I killed my family because I know my death would stumble them. At least now they will not suffer and will be resurrected to life forever in peace. As the police delved into the Stewarts' world, a complex and perplexing picture began to emerge. Interviews with family members, friends, and neighbors painted the couple as reclusive, marked by a sense of estrangement after leaving the Jehovah's Witness church. Lauren's history was marred by her own struggles. Some family members said Lauren, who had 11 siblings, suffered from depression which was later on compounded by the weight of motherhood. In recent years, she spiraled into religious fixation, often launching impassioned tirades. Her family members, including her father and sister, revealed the extent of the emotional distance that had grown over time and had not spoken to her in years. Her mother had passed away when she was 13 years. Estranged for years, they saw Dan as the catalyst pulling Lauren away from them and never really cared about him. They also shared troubling insights about the couple's mental health, characterizing their relationship as a fusion of mutual distress. To those who knew Lauren, her defiance of the Jehovah's Witness faith marked her as an apostasy, a label that spoke to her outspoken opposition to the organization and her decision to leave it. The heart-wrenching tragedy left a deep scar on the lives of those who knew the family intimately. Joyce Taylor, a longtime family friend, was visibly shaken, believing that the murders were a direct consequence of the Stewarts' rejection by the Jehovah's Witnesses. Taylor and other former members shed light on the harsh reality of leaving the faith. They explained that once you depart from the church, even your own family members who remain within its fold are forbidden from interacting with you, a severe form of shunning that takes a heavy emotional toll. According to Taylor, Lauren and Daniel's desire to provide their children with a college education clashed head-on with the religion's teachings, which frowned upon such pursuits. The collision between their aspirations and the rigid doctrines of their faith set the stage for a tragic unraveling. They were shunned everywhere and every way possible. If Lauren went to the grocery store, they didn't look her in the eye, Taylor said. When you're raised a Jehovah's Witness, they choose your friends. They choose who you associate with, and if you go against that, they will disfellowship you or shun you. In a shocking turn of events, Joyce Taylor stormed into a Kingdom Hall meeting in Union Lake, seizing the moment to confront the congregation. Standing on a chair, she boldly criticized the gathering, her voice resonating with a mix of anger and sorrow. "Excuse me, everyone," she declared. "My name is Joyce Taylor. 2 days ago, 4 people died as a result of your shunning process." Taylor's outburst sent shockwaves through the room as she pushed away congregants and vented her pent-up frustration, shouting, "5 years ago, you people pulled your support from this small family. The only support they had was you people. You turned them away and you shunned them. And for what?" she exclaimed. "Because they wanted to raise their children as they saw fit." The police were aware of the family's issues with their former church, but declined to comment. Police records detailed how Lauren had recorded a poignant 2-minute video on February 6th at 11 p.m., explaining the depth of her despair. She cited a multitude of issues, expressing her inability to carry on and her desire not to burden others any longer. Abandoned by her church family, Lauren found herself drowning in a relentless sea of despair, with what she believed to be the only escape: death. Convinced that ending her own life was the solution to her unbearable suffering, she made the agonizing choice to also take the lives of her loved ones, sparing them what she perceived as the inevitable shame and suffering that her actions would bring upon their household. Police records painted a grim picture of Lauren's mental state in the lead-up to the tragedy, noting her unmistakable signs of severe depression and increasingly abnormal behavior. It appeared that she had immersed herself in a personal interpretation of religion, intensifying her depression. Shockingly, she never sought professional help or counseling, and no prescription drugs or alcohol were found in her system. However, traces of marijuana were discovered, not just in Lauren's system, but also in her husband and sons. The police investigation unraveled a complex web of factors contributing to her devastating actions. Loneliness, the severed ties with family and friends over religious differences, and deep-seated emotional scars stemming from alleged childhood sexual abuse all converged to amplify her anguish, ultimately driving her to commit the unthinkable. In a striking testament to the estrangement within the family, Lauren's sister's response spoke volumes. She exhibited a somber demeanor and expressed a surprising lack of surprise when hearing the news of her sister's actions, demonstrating just how far Lauren had drifted from her own sister, who even showed little regret about the tragedy. While the motives behind Lauren Stewart's horrifying actions may have been due to the profound isolation imposed by her former church and her childhood trauma, it begs the question: could things have taken a different turn had she reached out for help when she felt suffocated by her circumstances? Tragically, rather than seeking counseling or professional guidance, Lauren chose a path of self-destruction with devastating consequences for all involved. As we reflect on this heart-wrenching tale, our thoughts are with the victims whose lives were tragically cut short and the loved ones they left behind.